Hi there, it's John from itsmorethanjustgaming.com. Welcome. Today I'm going to be doing another Star Wars Armada unboxing for the Wave 7 Imperial ship. And this is one I've been waiting for quite a while. It is the Imperial Star Destroyer Chimaera, which is the flagship of Grand Admiral Thrawn, if you're unfamiliar. And if you're unfamiliar with it, just let me give you a little bit of context. Grand Admiral Thrawn is one of my favourite Star Wars characters. He was introduced in the early 90s in the book Heir to the Empire. He was the only, in the extended universe that has recently been removed from the canon by the Disney stars Death Beam. Yeah, the Disney star, I like that idea. A giant Mickey Mouse in space that shoots lasers from its eyes and destroyed all of the historical canon, all the stories we used to like and read. Sorry, personal bias here. Grand Admiral Thrawn was introduced in Heir to the Empire. He was the only non-human ever to reach flag rank in the Empire. Certainly the only one to reach Grand Admiral. I think there were 12 Grand Admirals in total, if I recall, and truth be told, I couldn't even tell you who the other 11 were. Thrawn was introduced. He's a white uniform officer. Only the Grand Admirals and the head of the Imperial Security Bureau got to wear white uniforms. If you actually watch Star Wars A New Hope, there's a scene in the Death Star. There's an Imperial officer who is wearing a white uniform. That's Colonel Yularen of the Imperial Security Bureau, who you might be familiar with from Clone Wars, who was Admiral Yularen in Clone Wars, and then Colonel Yularen in Rebels. Anyway, sorry, I digress. Thrawn was absent from much of the rebellion. He had been banished by the Emperor, or at least that's what the public story was, to the Outer Realm on a mapping expedition. There's a lot more to it than that. And he came back after the Emperor was defeated, and he put together a core force of Star Destroyers and attacked the New Republic, which was the Star Wars continuity at the time. Obviously, with the Force Unleashed and The Last Jedi, that's no longer the canon, that's now considered Legends, and Grand Admiral Thrawn has been reintroduced via the TV series Rebels, I should say. And Timothy Zahn, who wrote Heir to the Empire, has written another book called Thrawn, which is decent. It's a decent enough book. I didn't think it was anywhere near as good as Heir to the Empire or the other Thrawn books. But then, I guess, when you've been told this is what the universe is now and it has to match up with what we want, I guess he did the best job he could. Chimaera has always been his flagship, and it is an Imperial Star Destroyer. It looks the exact same as an Imperial Star Destroyer, but it has lots of pretty patterns on it. So, I'm just going to actually take it out of the box, and then we can have a look inside, play around with it, and most important of all, once we've played around with the actual Star Destroyer, we're going to have a look at the cards and see what sort of upgrades Imperial players are going to be able to field. Because I know roughly what the Grand Admiral Thrawn card does, I have no idea what else is in the box. So this is exciting for me. So I've cheated a little bit and actually done the unboxing off camera, but then you don't want to see me fighting with packaging and fighting with fighter assembly, which you would have seen plenty of because, well, there was some cursing and swearing off camera. Let's just leave it at that when I was trying to assemble this Mandalorian gauntlet fighters that you get. You get two of them with this set. Excuse me. So let's first of all have a look at the Chimaera. It is the exact same size as an Imperial Star Destroyer. As you would imagine, they are standard ships of the line, or heavy ship of the line for the Empire. Looks very pretty. If you're into giant triangular things, I guess, or giant triangulars, spaceships in space. And it has this pattern on the hull as well. You get your standard 3 command dials, nothing unusual about them. I'll move them to one side and accidentally drop one off camera and then catch it. You have a speed dial, which I've assembled. like I did with the command dials. You've got the standard Star Destroyer defense tokens. You've got, I think that is that. I can't remember what this one's called. Is it Brace, the one that reduces your damage by half or something like that? Redirect and Contain, which I think prevents criticals. I need to check the rules for that. I'll pop them to one side. But again, no surprises in terms of the tokens that you use for defense with the Chimaera. You have order tokens, as you would with any ship of the line, any starships in Star Wars, in case you actually don't want to use your, let's say we've got the squadron orders here. Let's say we've got called squadron orders for the ship this turn, but we don't need it, so we take a squadron orders token. So we've got one of each. Now here's where things start getting a little bit different. We have what are called raid tokens, and these are the they're kind of like, they look like the order tokens, so there's the opposite, the squadron orders, but they have a strike through, and there are 8 tokens in total. I guess it's 2 of each order type, so there's squadron orders, there's concentrate fire, there's engineering, and there's maneuver. They are the effects of, I think they're the effects of the Mandalorian ships, which I will come to in a second. They basically prevent ships that are under the effect of that raid from activating that order. So if you raid a ship and use the squadron orders one, they can, and it's a rebel carrier, for instance, they can no longer do squadron orders until they actually discard a token, or there are ways to get rid of it, but they're hampered for at least a turn, basically. So there's 4, well, there's 2 sets of 4, because there's 2 Mandalorian gauntlets. Let's have a look at the gauntlets. I think these are from Rebels, because the Mandalorians feature quite a lot in them. They're alright. They're not TIE fighters. They're not TIE bombers. They're not TIE interceptors. I like Imperial Star Destroyers with an escort of TIE fighters. There is one named pilot. I'll come to that, to him in a minute, when I get to the actual cards. We have chaff tokens. They signify hull zones where a chaff effect is happening, but I've not actually read all the upgrade cards yet, so I'm not quite sure what they are. You've got your number tokens to keep track of different ships, which actually starts becoming important in this expansion. And I'm going to I'll zoom in on the capital ship board, and then on the actual cards themselves, so you'll get a feeling for why those tokens are finally important, because up until now, for me at least, they've not really been relevant. Okay, so we have Gar Saxon, the named Mandalorian Gauntlet Fighter Pilot, which is a move 4 Imperial Fighter, 7 hull. It's got 2 blue and a red. Is that anti-squadron dice, and a blue and a black for anti-capital ships? Yes, that's right. And when an enemy squadron with intel or relay at distance 1 activates, it suffers 1 damage. So he's quite good at disrupting support ships. And assault. While attacking a ship, you may spend 1 die with a damage icon. If you do, the defender gains 1 raid token of your choice. So I mentioned raid tokens just a moment ago, and that's how you deploy them on your enemy ship. So you would send your gauntlet fighter in, raid the ship so that they can't concentrate their fire, they can't repair, or whatever it is. Rogue, you can move and attack during the squadron phase. You don't need to be part of the squadron orders, which is useful. And it has I think that's, brace for damage reduction. And we have the standard gauntlet fighter, which is 3 points cheaper. It is slightly less good against capital ships, and it doesn't have the ability to automatically damage intel or relay ships. But otherwise it's the same fighter. If I was going to have one of those, I'd probably at least put the effort into having the named one. Okay, going to zoom out a little bit. We have 2 Star Destroyer cards, 2 Star Destroyer type cards in here, and there's 3 copies of each card actually, so it looks like they're wanting you to start buying Imperial Star Destroyers en masse and just using these cards and the upgrades that you get with the Chimaera. The first Imperial Star Destroyer is the Quake refit. Command 3, so 3 command dials. Squadron 2, so it can only activate 2 squadrons with it, and it has Engineering 4. It has 11 hull, anti-squadron dice of 1 blue and 1 black. It has a lot of battery armaments, particularly forward if it's in close range. That'll hammer an enemy starship. Not the most maneuverable, but then Star Destroyers don't tend to be. It has an Imperial Officer, a Weapons Technician upgrade, one of these types of gun upgrades, one of these support system upgrades, ion cannon upgrade, and ordnance upgrade. This is the Quake refit is a gun platform. It's a damage-dealing gun platform. And to be fair, that's what a Star Destroyer is intended. Well, they have names. They are Star Destroyers. They destroy things. Not stars, obviously, because they're too small to do that, but they can do a lot of damage. And like I say, there's 3 of these cards. Then there is the Simoon 1 refit. There are 3 of the Simoon 1 refit cards. It has 2 Black Squadron armaments. It has 11 hull. It has the same defense tokens. It has the same maneuverability, as you would expect. It's a Star Destroyer. It has better squadron commands. It has 3 squadron points. I think the Imperial Star Destroyer had 4, if I cast my mind back to the original one. So these are both given over to a little bit more in the way of armaments, because they also, I think, the standard Star Destroyer... Ooh, actually, hang on. The standard Star Destroyer, I think, has 8 in its forward battery, if I remember rightly, and this only has 7. So it's not quite as heavy as the Quake, but it does have reasonable range. It's got the blue and the reds. It has an officer upgrade, a gunner type upgrade. It has a fleet icon for fleet upgrades. These are new. It has this main weapon and 2 battery armament upgrades. Let's move them to the side and we'll have a look. The Star Destroyer that I've got set up is on a Simon one because I would probably want it to act more like a fighter carrier than anything else. And don't worry if you can't see all of this. I'm going to take photographs and put them on my blog. There will be a link to the article in the video's description, so you'll always be able to go to that and have a better look at the photos. Yeah, I'm going to hold it up to the... Simon, like I say, the Simon I think is more like a command ship, whereas the Quake is a gun platform, a short-range artillery platform, which is almost a contradiction in terms. Now let's look at the upgrades for admirals, officers, and all the other good stuff. My favourite Star Wars character, Grand Admiral Thrawn. After deploying fleets, place 3 face-down command dials on this card. At the start of each ship phase, you may reveal and discard one of these dials. If you do, until the end of the round, before each friendly activates, it gains 1 additional dial, matching the discarded dial. So you could put 3 concentrate fires on here and never have concentrate fire in your fleet, and suddenly your fleet's actually, one of your ships is on squadron orders, but they're actually at close range, and suddenly they're on concentrate your fire as well. I think I would, even if it wasn't as awesome as that, I'd probably have him because it's Grand Admiral Thrawn. Captain Brunson, I guess she's the captain of the Chimaera in Rebels. I was a bit disappointed that Captain Pelion, who is from Heir to the Empire and various other Timothy Zahn books, I'm a bit disappointed that he wasn't in it, to be honest. He was Thrawn's adjutant for a long time, his second in command, and his protege, so it's a shame that he's not actually carried on. Okay, Captain Brunson. While defending at distance 1 to 2 of an obstacle, during the spend defense token step, you may exhaust this card to choose and cancel 1 attack die. So that's really useful for a defensive ship, where you're wanting to actually put yourself in harm's way and soak it up and not take soak up all the fire, not take any damage. Governor Price, medium or large ship only, will of course. After deploying fleets, you may place 1 round token on this card. If you do, during the round matching that round token, you must activate at the end of the ship phase. Hang on a second. After deploying fleets, you may place 1 round token on this card. If you do, during the round matching that round token, you must activate at the end of the ship phase, after all other ships have activated. Okay, so... sorry, I had to repeat myself there, and I had to stop myself and figure out where that was going to be useful. And I can see that being useful if you can predict what round it is your opposing fleet is going to be closing on you. And if you activate, because you do fire and then move, so if the rebels all have to move first, you can then actually wait for them to move into your gunnery range and blow them to bits, and then move. So I think Governor Price would be quite useful, but I think you'd need to be quite skilled in her. You'd have to have a think about carefully how you'd use her, but I think she could be quite useful. Instructor Goran. While a friendly non-heavy squadron is at distance 1 to 2, it has counter 1 or increases its counter value by 1. I think that would be fantastic for TIE defenders. Not TIE defenders, TIE interceptors, because I'm reasonably sure they have counter 1. So if you had a screen of TIE interceptors, for instance, anyone that tries to get past them gets shot down. Anyone that ignores them gets attacked by them. Anyone that tries to tackle them gets shot by them. And yeah, I think that's quite cool. Taskmaster Grint. After deploying fleets, choose and place 1 command token on this card. When you reveal a command matching that token, you may gain 1 matching command token without spending the command dial. Okay. I can see that being useful for if you're wanting to... if you think you're going to be in close range and you want to do, on your next turn, you're going to be doing concentrating fire, and on this turn, you are on squadron orders, I think I would put Taskmaster Grint on. I'd give him a squadron orders token at the start, so that when it gets to the situation where the ships are actually closing, either that or I'd give him maneuvers. And I would do maneuvers early on to give him a maneuver token, so that when I needed to, I'd be able to increase or decrease speed, whilst also activating squadrons or activating my main guns. Excuse me, dearie me, I've got a lot of wind this evening. The Strategic Advisor, who happens to look a lot like Plo Koon. Large ship only. When it is your turn to activate, you may exhaust this card to pass your turn. Your opponent activates a ship instead. Interesting. I'd need to look up the rules errata on that. Does that mean you completely lose out on that ship for the entire turn? Or does it just mean that that ship goes later? If the ship goes later, then that's very, very useful. If you lose out your turn entirely, I'm struggling to see how that would be useful. I'm pretty sure that means that you would just take that ship's turn later on in the round, or in the ship phase, again forcing the rebel player to move into your weapons range. So yeah, I think I can see the use for that. Darth Vader. This is the third Darth Vader card I've seen, because I've got his Admiral card and I've got his Fighter Pilot card, because I do have his TIE Defender, TIE Advanced up there. When you reveal a command, you may discard a squadron dial or token and discard... Sorry, you can discard a squadron dial or token and discard to choose one enemy ship at close range. Choose and discard one non-crew upgrade card equipped to that ship. It's quite cheap. If you knew that your opponents were going to be fielding a really annoying upgrade, I can see that getting used. I mean, it's 3 points. Okay, so we're going into the early warning system, which is sort of support systems, I think it is. What that means, it's shields or radar and things like that. At the start of each ship phase, you may choose one of your hull zones and mark it with a chaff token. Until the end of the round, while a ship or squadron is attacking that hull zone, the attack is obstructed. After the status phase, remove that chaff token. Okay, so it launches countermeasures. I like that. You get 2 early warning systems. Hardened bulkheads, large ships only. When you overlap a ship of a smaller size class or are overlapped by a ship of a smaller size class, deal 1 fewer face-down damage cards to your ship. Okay, useful. Ramming speed and all that. Do we have any other... Oh, yeah. Sorry, we've got the fleet upgrades. Entrapment formation. At the start of the ship phase, you may discard this card or spend a token. If you do, until the end of the round, each friendly ship may change its speed by 1 during its determined course step. Okay. At the start of the ship phase, you may discard this card or spend a token. Okay, so that would be very useful in terms of a game of manoeuvring. If you were advancing and you want to come, and you're moving in not too fast, but you want to come to a dead stop and basically box the rebels in, smash them to pieces with broadsides and stuff like that. So that would be quite fun. Useful is what I meant. And fun. Intensify firepower, that's another fleet command. Entrapment formation costs 5. At the start of the ship phase, you may discard this card or spend a concentrate fire token. If you do, until the end of the round, while each friendly ship is attacking a ship, it may change 1 die to a face with 1 damage icon and no other icons. So that would be useful if you've got a lot of capital ships of any size. So even your assault carriers and your the gunship that looks like a TIE fighter, but it's a Corvette. Can't remember its name. And you're worried about getting misses and things like that. So yeah, that'll be useful. Shields to maximum, another fleet command. At the start of the ship phase, you may discard this card or spend an engineering token. If you do, until the end of the round, before a friendly ship reveals a command, it may recover 1 shield. Very interesting. It's also specifying that you can spend the token, but it doesn't say you have to spend it off the ship that the fleet command is equipped to. So I might have to check the rules on that, because I can see some people saying no, it has to come from the ship it comes from, and if it does, then so be it. But if it doesn't, then that makes all of those fleet commands amazing. That being said, they're fleet commands, so the tokens should be able to come from anywhere in the fleet. The Chimaera. You gain 1 fleet icon in your upgrade bar. You cannot equip this card if you have a fleet icon in your upgrade bar. At the start of the command phase, you may discard 1 fleet upgrade card you have equipped and replace it with another upgrade card. Now that is fantastic. So for instance, you might say, let's say we start off with the entrapment formation on the Chimaera. and we've used the entrapment formation, and we're now boxing the rebels in. I'm going to use that, and I'm going to go change it to shields to maximum. So suddenly we've got the rebels surrounded, but they're actually, we've hit them with a couple of broadsides, and they're starting to punch back. So let's put our shields to maximum. I mean, you could also go with the intensify forward firepower, and hopefully take them down completely. We've got another named Star Destroyer, the Sovereign. At the start of the ship phase, Chimaera costs 4, Sovereign also costs 4. At the start of the ship phase, you may exhaust this card to discard 1 command token from up to 3 friendly ships at distance 1 to 5. If you do, each of those ships may gain 1 command token of any type. So that's built to be a command ship, really, to monkey around with the command tokens that you've got. So perhaps that's something that you would use with your fleet commands. So I can see Sovereign and Chimaera actually both being in a fleet together and working really well together. I'll need to actually come back to use at some point in the near future with a build for 2 Imperial Star Destroyers. We actually also for the first time have generic Star Destroyer cards. The 7th Fleet Star Destroyers, which I'm guessing is Grand Admiral Thrawn's fleet in Rebels. I don't remember it being named, but it probably was, and I just wasn't paying attention only. It is Star Destroyer only. While defending it against an attack that targets your front hull zone, before you suffer damage, you may choose and exhaust a copy of this card on another friendly ship at distance 1 to 4 to reduce the total damage by 1. So that is something you would use when you have multiple Star Destroyers from the 7th Fleet, basically supporting one another. And that's, if you were flying them in close formation, you can actually see shield overlap and things like that, which I suppose is what the distance 1 to 4 corresponds with. So that's, yeah, I like that. Not as much as I like Sovereign and Chimaera, but I do like that. And that's my very quick look inside the box of the Imperial Star Destroyer Chimaera. I've brought out a friend for it to play with, the Imperial Star Destroyer that I got ages and ages ago, and I've decided for the moment it's going to be Sovereign. It does have the regular Star Destroyer base on it, but like I say, I'm probably going to spend some time at some point in the near future looking at putting together a fleet of Star Destroyers of these two, and some accompanying fighters, and then seeing what I can make of that, just for fun, obviously, for fun and domination. So I've been John, it's from itsmorethanjustgaming.com. This has been my unboxing of the Imperial Star Destroyer Chimaera, starring Grand Admiral Thrawn. If you have enjoyed this video or found it useful, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. There will be photographs to all of the cards and some close-ups of the Star Destroyers on my blog article, which you will be able to get to via the link at the bottom. And I hope I'll see you again here soon. Bye for now.